probably what is not dissecting it.
Just a question, somebody's cell phone? Whose phone is it?
Thanks, Sean.
Is it yours? Good? Yeah, thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We're just about to begin with the rest of the proceedings. If everybody could settle down. Are you nourished? Are you sustained? Did you have a good lunch break? Wonderful. We're just about to head into, I think, it's hard to say what would be my favorite part of the proceedings because it's been such a day that's filled us up so much with the panel discussions. But I am quite partial to performance. So I am looking forward to the next part. We are starting off, just as we closed off before, with some poetry. Napo Mashiane was born in Soweto and grew up in Qwaqwa. She is a playwright, a poet, a stage director, producer, teacher, and acclaimed performer. And today she'll be performing a poem that was commissioned especially by Tekano for our gathering, and it's called Nomzamo.
Ke khaebane ke mamutu ke semomotela ke ngwana tharientsho tori ke kodi ya malla ke paka mahlomola ke tutubatso ke tubuselo sekwankwe tla yena he ke mokaubere. She, I, her, we are your wildest dreams that grew out of us as if released from your fist. She, I, her, we are your loudest screams, made of bloodlines and clan names, a veil between the living and the coming, the rising and the becoming. She, I, her, we are your profoundest existence, a vessel that continues to sculpt and mold and fold and carve the roughness draft of our lives. She, I, her, we are your toughest bookshelves that they tried to bury alive. What they didn't know was that you, Nomzamo, bore daughters made of soil mobu. That your Mother Earth multiplied into 1,000 pages made of flaws and claws but stitched together by her story. Hers and she's and hers. She, I, her, we are your highest beauty made of clay letsopa that matched so that our silence could not choke us, that fought so that our tongues could shift for no one, that held oceans of tears so that our cries cannot be filled with fears. She, I, her, we are your proudest pride made of defiance. Girindwa. She, I, her, we are those who rose and pose, fell and pulled and stood still, so that our swelled up anger over time and tide over space and grace could heal us from oppressions and suppressions, so that we can just dream ourselves out of a nightmare. She, I, her, we are your strongest shield by the battlefield. Unshakable, unmoved, yet grew fires and flowers from street pavements that you, Nomzamo, went to war for and won yourself back, so that we, carrying storms and demons, can say we are not stolen. We are not beaten. We are not raped. We are not silenced. We are not femicide. We are not death, are not dead. She, I, her, we are your clearest sunrise and sunset. And our bodies are not just pools and floods of blood in Soweto, Khayelitsha, Mamelodi, Umlazi. The daughters that you bore just want to fist in the sun in full moon and be this black and proud and bold and beautiful, be this brave name, shade, be this language on our tongues that can just walk freely in its own freedom. She, I, her, we, she and I, her and we are your great, grandest dreams that no one warned history about. Hobani, women like you, Nomzamo, are riots. Play riots, uprising, rising. Mothers, ke bomme ba tshwanang le wena, Nomzamo, whose feet fear wanted to cut from running and raising and racing, will give birth to daughters with wings that will rise and raise to tell her story, your story, their story, that even 1,000 voices of men will never crown or drown, because we are you. And you are us. And we are they, and they are them who are still all of you. Nomzamo usizamile. And you did not die. Would have not died. Could have not died. Because we are she and I. We are her and we, she, I, her, we, she, I, her, we are your wildest, loudest, toughest, strongest, highest dreams that grew out of us as if released from your fist. Hobane o khaebane o mamutu o semomotela. O ngwana tharientsho tori ho godi amalapa ka mahlomola o tutubatso tubuselo sekwankwetla. Wena he o moka ubere. She, I, her, we. She and I, her and we. She, I, her, we. She and I, her and we. She and I, her and we. She and I.
I don't know if I'm meant to be having this much of a good time. Who could call this work? This is such a joy-giving day. Such a joy-giving time, and we are so held and celebrated by each other in this moment. And it's something that I'm holding on to as we head into our final film, which is called Celebrating Winnie Through Song by Sihle Hlope of Passion Seed.
Sound, isiqi, is a big part of who Umam Winnie is, and I say is because, they continue to live through us, right?
Your Yvonne Chaka Chakas wrote music about Mama. Women in Nigeria wrote music about Mama.
But it's only later when I sort of learned that, like, the 80s pop stars, your Brenda Fass's, your Yvonne Chaka Chaka were literally playing on, the phonetics of words.
She wasn't saying Winnie Mandela, but she was like,
I'm winning, winning, Mandela. I'm winning, winning. Do you remember this one? Because I'm winning, winning, Mandela. Winning, winning. Winning, winning.
I think Winnie Mandela was also like a style influence on Sissy Von.
Winning, winning, Mandela. Winning, winning.
Music, not only South African music, but also American music became just part of the struggle.
Winning, winning, Mandela. Winning, winning, Mandela.
Carlene Davis, she was a famous, very, very famous Jamaican reggae singer. I know that song from my childhood, and I'm sure I heard it at one of these rallies.
Winnie Mandela. Winnie, Winnie Mandela.
She is our revolutionary hero. We need heroes. She is a grassroots revolutionary.
Viva Winnie Mandela, viva!
Viva!
Viva Winnie Mandela, viva!
Later on in my life, of course, I found Satima Bey's song.
Mother of the nation, see her love light shine.
Mama loved our people. She loved them regardless of whether they understood the kind of person that she was or understood the mission that she was on. She loved them wholeheartedly and unapologetically.
The song Nongongo by Miriam Makeba, it's just a haunting, haunting, beautiful song. And it's the song that I grew up just hearing at parents' friends' houses when they were having, planning meetings for rallies and things like that. Or at funerals, when an expat would die, you would hear that song often.
There was a lot of conscientization of Winnie. Miriam Makeba did speak a lot about Winnie.
So during Fees Must Fall, you had students actually appropriating Miriam Makeba's song that she composed, Unongongo, right, which may be found in a film by Sidney Poitier. Mamleta is in that film, and that's when she's singing Unongongo.
There's something about when those voices resonate, when those melodies come out, that speaks for us beyond what we could do on our own. That's why music works as resistance, because music gets to go to places where we cannot reach.
Music is quite central in, the making of Black collectives.
During the Fees Must Fall movement, when Bogoto Must Lead was launched, we came up with our own songs speaking about Mama Winnie. And, some of those songs, my mind is just like racing now, trying to trace some of them. There's a song that says, "U nomzamo usiniki bazooka."
She was as comfortable in military fatigues as she was in, those Black Panther leather jackets, as she was in like African couture.
It's a very militant song, right? It stirs up an energy.
Mom Winnie knew about the songs, and you would actually see the smile if we're in the car, and they're playing the song, and you would see the smile on her face, I would like check on her how she feels, and you'd see the smile.
Then you have Thandiswa Mazwai, our young revolutionary goddess, who came up with a song as well.
It's called Nizalwa Ngobani.
Nizalwa Ngobani. That song is a very powerful song. It's a powerful statement as well. It's a question and an answer in itself.
I meet a lot of people who say to me, this song reminds me of my grandmother who passed away.
I remember uThandiswa just framing uMaDikizela as Ikawe, right?
It's very rare you would see Umama with tears, in her eyes. And when she saw Thandiswa performing and doing that, she was really, really excited.
For me, music has definitely been that place where I could heal my own wounds. It also became a place where I could encounter other people's wounds.
So leading up to the week of Mama's funeral, Thandiswa hosted a women's-only concert in Newtown. Oh my God.
Nizalwa Ngobani was our first song. It went into a very long trance at the end of just calling her name. And on that day, usually I'm like, Matikizela. That's how I do it. On that day, it was kind of rumbling out of my stomach. It was like, yay, Matikizela. Yay, Matikizela. Was roaring out of me. And I kept saying it, and I kept saying it, and I kept saying it. And after that, I sat down. I was finished.
She takes us through a lot of different emotions, from raunchy and sexy to angry and political and sentient and spiritual, and it was a full moon that night. There are many, many, many songs that honor Mama Winnie, but there's a difference when the song is a confrontation.
We were all in tears, hugging, holding each other. We were able to even walk around, bare-breasted.
We knew something was happening, we just didn't know what it was. And the next day, we wake up to the news that Mama has died. And it just felt like we were at the right place at the right time.
During her last days, how I wish we understood that it was
her last days. But I thank God that that is hidden from us.
It felt like your grandmother died, but it also felt like Superwoman had died.
Initially, she was not going to be given a state funeral. It was the 2 weeks of kind of digital, public, visible uprising by Black women that shifted the national narrative.
So Thandiso's music at that particular point in time allowed us to be able to say goodbye.
We'll now call Thandiso Mazwai to render one item, please. One item.
To sing at Mama Winnie's funeral was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever had to do. And to sing in front of her coffin, it was just unbearable.
I love, Black women musicians that are unafraid to own where they come from. Thandiso are drawing from Umambusi, but Umambusi is drawing from Umntwana uMagogo. Umntwana uMagogo is drawing from multiple women.
And one of the things that she would say about these songs is that these are the songs that if one day God remembers her, the songs will stay on. When those songs are played now, you feel that she really multiplied.
Winnie, Winnie, Mandela. I'm winning, winning, Mandela. I'm winning, winning. Do you remember this one? Because I'm winning, winning, Mandela. Winning, 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 winning.
Good. I think that reminds us that we carry ourselves through song, we carry each other, we carry our communities, we carry memory. And there's such immense power in what we just saw and what we just heard. It's very emotive, and I think we're all stirred up by it. And with that spirit, with that sense of the divine that enters the room when we draw from the wells of our cultural resources, I'd like to invite Lebo and Thandiso to stage. And with that, I'd also like to invite Sihle to come up. Come on. Thank you. We'd like to all applaud you and to celebrate the beautiful work on that film.
Thank you. Am I on? Is it that time when I say 1, 2, 1, 2?
Yep.
Thank you. Am I on now? Yes. Thank you. So I realized that I played myself, eh? Because although my last name is Ramafuku, which means father of the words, I really have got no words. But I really want to start this conversation with the theme that we have carried on this entire day about on whose shoulders you stand. And just to call on into the room, Tandiswa's mom, Ubelede Mazwai, who was my classmate. I was very young, and I used to wear very, very short shorts with mismatching shoes at university. And here was Sis Belete, who, for all intents and purposes, was like a mother to me. And what was very, very special about your mother is that in adverts, many black people did not do pure English. They would do applied English. And your mother and I just did it because people said you wouldn't do it. Not that I had the capacity to do it. Did pure English. And what was very special was that the lecture for pure English, you had to go down a dark corridor. And I knew I was safe when I could hear your mother sing a hymn coming down that passage into the lecture hall. And, you know, I thought about it a lot when I thought about this session to say just how, as black women, we hold each other even without realizing that we hold each other.
That, yes.
Yeah, and I got to understand it much older, that as a very young 18-year-old, what it meant to have another black woman who happened to be your mother, in the room. So it gives me immense pleasure and such a privilege to be sitting across this chair with you and talking about the women who carry us. And I do know that,
I mean, for me, my mother is all the reasons for all the things that I do. I refer back to my mother. And I think it's just it is because I lost her when I was very young, and so in my mind she stayed in this kind of iconic space, you know, where she's can do no wrong, you know, and in many ways, Umamu Winnie Mandela kind of resides in the same place in my spirit, in my heart, you know, where I'm always just kind of driven by what these women, how they moved through the world, you know. And you, knowing my mother, my mother was very bold, unafraid of anything, and she took up space, you know. And I often think about the idea, you know, when someone says, you know, we should take up space, that for a lot of women, you first have to get into that space before you can take it up, you know. But there are these women who remind us that just by virtue of being here, we are already in that space, and that we should just take it up, fill the room with ourselves. And my mother was definitely that for me, that reminder, or that teaching actually, that teaching that I should take up the space that I have been born to take up.
And let's talk a little bit about choice, because you know, both locally and internationally, and you see it in young people who want to break into the music industry. There is a thing about the over-sexualization of women artists. So what does the role of consciousness play in the artist that you became? Because, I mean, you know, if anybody reflects at your own journey, and I'm sure you are the best person to reflect on your own journey, is one could see just what a choice you were making about the artist that you are going to be, and the I don't know if symbol is the right word, but the symbol that you are going to be, you know, like I think when you mention music and you mention Thandiswa, without even speaking, that consciousness, that conscious choice becomes so apparent, like you can't deny it.
I did.
What informed that? And take us through that.
You know, again, I think everything returns to my mother, you know. When my mother passed, I was, like I said, 16. I started singing when I was 19. And in that space, I started having to think about what my mother had taught me and what I could do to make her proud, you know. So it was really just about how I could keep my mother's loving gaze upon me beyond, from the beyond. And I made those choices really because I was trying to impress my mother. And it began like that, you know. But I did also know somewhere, you know, like people would say to me, why did you choose to dress this way? And I would say that it was a revolutionary choice to dress this way, because I hadn't seen women of my generation representing themselves in this way. And for me, the way that I was dressing, I was wearing iqiya, I was wearing, you know, umbhaco. I would go to everything wearing umbhaco, and people would be like, and then, wena, but I felt that it was important for that kind of beauty to become more mainstream. That I would turn on the TV and everything was telling me about white beauty.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see myself. And and when I got the chance to be in front of a camera, I said, this is where I get to do it. This is where I get to say, look at this body. It's not that body on TV. Look at this skin. Look at this woman. She's not the one you see on TV. I'm not on some ad with my hair blowing in the wind talking about it's because I'm worth it, you know? And I was looking for that. I was like, where's the thing that says to me, it's because because you're worth it? And so I started creating that for myself and inadvertently created it for other young women, you know? So there is a conscious choice that I think I made as an artist to do that, but also there was a kind of emotional decision to impress my mother and to impress all my other mothers, you know? I counted Mamuini as one of my mothers. I counted Mamumire Makeba as one of my mothers. And in fact, when I was very young, because I had the privilege to encounter these women in person, which is, I'm still flawed by that. I'm still flawed by the fact that in my life experience, I've encountered these people in person. And when I first met Umamumira Makeba, we were at the Felicia Mabuza Subtle Show, and I bought her a mask, because I was like, you can't meet Umamumira Makeba and not bring a gift. So I went to the market and I bought an amazing African mask. And she sat me down. We chatted about a few things, but the thing that popped out that I always remembered was she said to me, so what kind of artist do you want to be?
Wow.
And I thought, wait a minute, I had never thought of that. I'd only, you know, I was in it. I was 19, getting paid 300 rands. It was a lot of money. And she said, but who are you? What do you want to be? And I thought, you know, you're right. I want to be the kind of artist that speaks to her generation, that has a conversation with her generation about this balance we're having between freedom and oppression. Because I grew up during apartheid and I saw freedom in my time. My mother died just before, I think. So I had to just I used my music to do that. But I think it was also, it was because I got to encounter so many incredible human beings in person. You know, and as a child, sometimes you don't listen, but somehow I had the ear to always listen. And try and engage it, you know.
So then you do Zabalaza.
Yes.
And I don't know, but when one listens to it, one sees so much hears so much bravery, you know, for, you know, a woman artist, and I use those words not that they matter, but they matter in a patriarchal world and a sector
that is also very patriarchal, that
But
you
I've
inhabit.
always been fearless. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Even when I was playing within the Kwaito space, which is extremely masculine,
Yeah.
I didn't consider myself a woman in danger in these spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I was a powerful human being who could be in these spaces, and in fact influence these spaces. And sometimes people speak about women in Kwaito as though they didn't have a kind
Agency.
of agency.
Yeah.
And when Lebo Mathosa puts on those tiny shorts, she puts them on. But before that, because I used to follow Lebo everywhere, Lebo, before she gets on the stage with her tiny shorts, has rehearsed for 10,000 hours.
Yo.
Practiced. The practice of being Lebo Mathosa. And then when she arrives on that stage, she is prepared.
Yeah.
And that her sexuality is her power. It is something that she expresses to her audience.
Yeah.
And it is and when she gets off that stage, it's gone.
Yeah.
You cannot engage her as a sexual being. You engage her as a human being who's expressing something that they feel is important for them in their own self-expression, but you can't engage it, you can't touch it like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that all these women were always very powerful. They were always very bold women who were fearless, to be in those spaces, to be at the Waza 99 with 10,000 people, and you are the girl, you are on Abashante and you are a dancer. There's a fearlessness that's required there.
Yeah.
But there's also an understanding that this is my dream, and that I will work for this dream, that I will stand in any of these spaces because I carry the power of my dream. And I was extremely inspired by the women of Kwaito as well, to be fearless, and I blame women entirely for my rebelliousness, for my wild spirit, entirely. I blame all women.
We
in
are
my
all
life
to
for
blame.
that. Yes, I blame the women in my life and the women around us, who dare us, to be ourselves, to be.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. Looking back now to the song Nizalwa Ngobani, because also I was at that festival, that was that celebration, that
Yes.
women's only concert.
Did you also go topless?
I looked and I felt and I thought, maybe not today.
Not today. Not on this day.
They felt a little bit too empty against the competition that was in the room.
Come on.
I was just like, well, maybe today I will, but not that day.
All boobs matter. Please.
Yeah, all boobs matter. All boobs matter. All boobs matter. I mean, it is such a beautiful song,
Yes,
hey? And considering that for most of us, we really cannot say we know our history, or our history is so, it's accessible to us. You
Yes.
almost have to seek it. And here you are, you put it in a song, and each time you hear it, it's almost a lesson. I mean, there are some names where whenever I hear that song, I'm like, oh, I'm hearing it for the first time, because, and I want to talk about your reflection on that song, particularly at the moment that you heard that Umamuini had died, and as you reflect on even this documentary about, how you felt when you performed it on that
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
That song, I think when you create something as an artist, you're creating it from such a simple place. And a lot of it is just personal emotions. And you can never imagine what a song will do. And these songs, the songs on the album Zabalaza, did things I could never have imagined could happen, So over the years, I mean, the song is almost 20 years old now. Over the years, the song kind of grew and had a life of its own. And I could have never prepared myself for the gravity of having written a song for Mamu Winnie Mandela, or the gravity of being able to sing it in her presence. I could have never prepared myself for that, you know, but I was called to speak these words, and so I spoke them.
Yeah.
When you are an artist, one of the things you have to do is have the bravery to speak the words that arrive to you.
Wow.
Because what we do is we listen. That's what an artist does. You sit, you listen, and something says, "Nizilibele uba nizalwa ngobani?" And you go, "What?" You know? And then it says, "Yes, nizalwa ngobani," and you go, "Okay, I guess that's the song I'm writing." And you put it down, you have no idea why. Because, you know, and I think that speaks to the idea that there's a canon. And in musical terms, a canon is like that song that different people start at different times, but it ends together at the same time. Like that song that goes, "Nangu me no dora baya esko," and everybody starts at the same at different times, but they end at "Baya gufunda nditi nangu me no dora." You always end at the same place, and that is what a canon is. It's that when you arrive here on earth to speak your truth, you are a continuation of a sentence, of a story that long began, and this is the part where you write yourself into it. And I wrote that song because first I wanted to self-actualize myself. Because when a woman writes, she becomes real to the world. The world does not hear or see a woman who does not speak her words out loud, or write them down, or sing them in a melody, anything, but use your words, you know. So I was like, okay, this is where I use my words. This is where I self-actualize. But also what I was doing was I was reconnecting myself, reconnecting the thread between myself, Mamu Winnie Mandela, Mamu Miriam Makeba, my own mother, that thread, my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers. But I could have never imagined what the song did, you know. And when I was asked to sing it at Mamu Winnie Mandela's funeral, I reflected on the fact that I had sung it for her so many times. She would sometimes just call me on a whim, "Kukui birthday, Stella Uzesis." Okay, coming, you know, and I'd get there and I'd sing the song. And they'd say, "Great." Then again, "Come sing the song." I'd sing the song. But on that day, it felt like this was the reason the song was written. One of the reasons. Because one of the other reasons the song was written was to say, there's this woman, Winnie Mandela, who I love, who I idolize, who I iconize in this moment, you know? But, you know, when you are a singer or a poet, you know, you are called sometimes to do things for the community. Like, there's a funeral, you must sing. There's a wedding, can you say a poem? You are called to be there for the community, not for yourself, because a lot of the time what we do is for our own healing. For me, that's what I do. But in that moment, I felt this song was written so that it can ultimately come and sit in this moment. Because I sang the song, and then the rain came down. Nothing else happened after that. And I thought, what is this song? What is this song, you know? And I still can never really truly understand what the song is doing, because I feel like it keeps going and doing its thing, you know? So it was a very powerful, powerful moment to be able to sing it at Mama's funeral.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And when I sang at Mama's funeral, I kind of said, this is the last funeral I'm singing at. I'm done with singing at funerals of great human beings that I adore.
Yeah.
I'm done with singing at their funerals. And then Brayu died, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm singing at Brayu's. And then Mum Dee passed, and I was like, I guess I'm singing at Mum Dee's funeral.
Yeah.
But I do love this idea that I can sometimes appear in places where I'm called to be of service.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not to perform, but to be of service. Yeah, and it's an honor for me that this song arrived on my plate. It could have gone to Napo.
Yeah.
It could have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
But it came to me, and it's an honor for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the concert was not the first one that you did. You've around your birthday had this
Yes.
moment that you curate, and those moments are very sacred for the people who attend them.
Yes.
And I mean sacred because they are safe spaces. Even this last one was such a safe space for women to be who they are, to express themselves. I mean, to cry, to
I don't
laugh.
know if I can call it safe. Eh?
Well, I think for me, maybe let me reflect as an audience member,
Yes,
at
you
least
felt
somebody
safe, you
who's
felt
there,
safe.
where I'm just like,
Held.
oh my goodness, you know,
Uh-huh.
I am in a space where authenticity is allowed, because I do think that as a black woman in South Africa in particular, and particularly, often when I speak to men and they really don't seem to understand this whole, like, what are these women fighting for? You know,
Yeah.
you'll find people who've known that you've been in this space all the time. It's like, "Lebo, le batlang," almost like, what is this now?
Yeah.
And I would say to them, picture yourself from the moment you wake up having to put on this mask, being
And
so
an armor.
aware of yourself, getting into your car, and even as you drive, knowing that somebody could just come and do their hand like this, almost like, get out of the way. Like, picture just what that does. It gives you constipation,
Yeah.
even physically, because you really have to hold everything in, including everything that you go through. And I say it's a safe space because I found women being able to express themselves in
Yeah.
whichever way they wanted. And how deliberate is it for you to actually, create such spaces, for full expression of women in their, different orientations, different everything?
I think it is deliberate, but I think my friend Bev put it. She, at the end of one of the gigs, came to me and she said, "You are dangerous." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because you allow so much extension in the room that it's just like, how dare these women be here in the middle of Joburg City, topless, at Newtown, at, partying up all night." I mean, but, so yes, there's a deliberate thing, but there's also, I don't know how to explain it. I think it is, it's cause and effect. It's an effect of, I step on that stage and I say to myself, I want to be free.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get on that stage. I'm going to come on the stage topless. Because I want to do that one day. I want to just not worry about where my body is. I just want my body to be there. So sometimes I create those spaces so that I can experience a kind of freedom, or that I can experience an extension of something. And then when I do that, it creates the permission for others to do the same. And I think that goes back to one of the major commandments of being an artist, which is tell your story. Be authentic to your story. And that is how people resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I literally just kind of do me. And then people go, wow, doing you is kind of cool. I just do me, and me is a rebel. Me is wild. Me wants to discover myself and wants to wants to be alive to the world,
Yeah.
you know, because there's so much of my experience where I've felt invisible to the world. And when I get on a stage, I say to myself, this is where you are alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're alive here.
Yeah.
One of the spaces that you can be alive, you know.
Yeah.
So it is deliberate. So I do imagine what will happen on the night, but never to the extent of what actually happens.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
I mean, for instance, on that night, there was a woman who was crying so much. There were tears, there were hugs, it's so much that is opened up in those spaces too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Which is why I'm saying safe or dangerous,
Yeah.
you know? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, people were weeping because they were like, I can't believe I'm naked.
Yeah.
I'm topless in a club.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I can't believe no one is interrupting my fun tonight. I can't believe that I sat there completely out of it. Nobody did nothing, you know? It was just us. You know, I can never really control also what else comes out of those spaces. But I just say, do you want to be in this space with me? Just us, and let's offload.
Yeah.
Let's shift paradigms for ourselves. Let's create newness for ourselves. Let's feel what it is to be free. You know? And what's interesting, even I don't know how long you stayed that night, but we went
Until
on
the end.
until
I always
we
stay
went on
until
until
the
about
end.
3, 4 in
Yeah.
the morning, and by the day started off pretty.
Yeah.
You know, people were speaking, Bev Dizzy was speaking, Millie was speaking, people, you know, there were speeches. And then as the night went, it just kind of went into that other place of women who misbehave.
Yeah.
You know? But it was still so revolutionary because at the end of the night, we were completely out of it. And we were dancing to Lebo Matosa. I want to be free from the chain. And everybody was just like, this is what I want. You know, and we don't have that many spaces.
Yeah.
There's nowhere.
Yeah.
There's nowhere.
Ways
you know.
created for that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just in the world.
Yeah.
I often watch men fall asleep at parks, and I think,
Yeah.
wow.
It must be
Wow,
nice.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah. It
Fast
must be-
asleep.
Yeah.
No care in the world. And I'm thinking, this is incredible.
Yeah.
You know?
What a symbol. Yeah.
Sometimes you even want the crazy freedoms. You want the freedom to, you just want that freedom. Like,
Yeah.
can I?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to, but can I?
Yeah. Can I even imagine it?
Can I imagine it? Can I imagine myself just out of it and laying there on the side of the road, waiting for it to pass?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, when I create these spaces, I'm trying to do that for myself too. I'm trying to be free from the chains that are binding me. That are binding me.
Yes, absolutely. So the whole day we've been reflecting on the erasure of Umama Winnie, and I think a number of the films that we saw, particularly her stories about Brentford, really underscored what happens to defiant women. I think she's symbolic of what happens, you know. And I think in many ways the world wakes up with an intention to silence the deviant women,
Yes.
you know. Whether it's talking too much and somebody saying, and who's gonna marry you with that mouth?
Yeah.
You know? Or whatever it is, you know. Let's get there, and it's, you know, it's not to undermine the resilience of women like Mamu Winnie, but I think we sometimes, in idolizing what she does, what you do, what Napo does, and other women does, is to almost gloss over the price they pay to be the defiant women.
Yeah.
And maybe if you can reflect just on that, either personally or generally, about what is the price you pay
Of being
to being
defiant.
a defiant woman in whatever way or form.
I am I'm one of those people that sees the bright, the good, I'm an optimist. I'm also a pessimist, but when a woman is defiant, and every time you try to silence a defiant woman, you create the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You create a world of other women who say, but why? Can I also be the same? You know? So I think that, yes, there is a price to pay, but I think that there's a price in any human being's life to be paid for being, just being. And I think that the defiant woman is the woman who reminds us that there's life to be lived.
Yeah.
That defiance, for instance, Mama Winnie's life, with all the tragedy that it comes with, dares us all to do the same. Which is a strange thing, right? It's like, go into the fire.
Yeah.
Go into the war. Confront. Resist. So I think that is the glory of life, actually. To be defiant of the things that you encounter in the world.
Yeah.
I don't feel sorry for Mama Winnie Mandela. I spoke to her the Christmas before she died, and I said to her, how have you stayed? How have you survived? And she said, by looking at other women. By knowing that other women continue, I continue. By knowing that other women fight, I fight. And by knowing that I have a reason, there's reason to my life. This is why I'm okay. Defiance means you are alive. There's a saying that says, make a noise to show that you are alive. Defy to show that you're alive. Because silence is death. And so I think I applaud a life of defiance. I don't feel sorry for a life of defiance, because this is what has been the stuff of legends. This is what made Brenda Fassie. This is what made Lebo Mathosa. This is what made Miriam Makeba. This is what made all these incredible women, was the defiance. Without the defiance, they would have perished in the world. The defiance is what lives on. The defiance is what has infected all of us. Mama Winnie's defiance infects us all, and we in turn will infect the next generation, who will infect the next generation, and that is how we don't die.
Yeah. So Thandiswa, I mean, I think for me, we are here now. She has died. And we said she didn't die, she multiplied. And we are in the middle of a pandemic. And we are in a country with high unemployment. We are in a country with high gender-based violence, rates of gender-based violence, rape. And I think for some activists, you tire, you then feel, is it even worth it? Or
how long have we been doing this?
Yes, how long have we been doing this? Or should we just wait because they are going to get us all? What should sustain us in this era where it feels like, the more we push this way, the more tons push us that way, particularly as Tekano, who runs a leadership development fellowship, What is it that we ought to do or say or even practice to remain vigilant, to remain energized, to remain, in the game? I mean, when I hear that the numbers of people, officials talking about the number of 10 to 14-year-olds who gave birth to children, I'm just like, I don't know how to deal with myself because I have been in this game for so long. You know, I just don't know how to deal with myself. You know, I don't know whether I can even talk about my activism as having made any difference. You know, you just sit there and then what is worse is that then radio stations and TV stations call you to be interviewed, and I've been feeling a lot more like I must be fake, you know, for even taking the space and the interviews, because then people call you an expert or an activist, but damn, 10 to 14-year-olds are still falling pregnant. Men are still raping 10 to 14-year-olds. The people who see them coming into a clinic are seeing a 10 to 14-year-old. And I don't see on the other side numbers and numbers of men going to jail. I mean, if there's 4,000 children between 10 to 14-year-olds falling pregnant, there must be 4,000 men who are in jail for raping 10 to 14-year-olds. I don't see it. And I'm called to speak, and, you know, I've got theories, and I've gone to school, and I can kumsh here and kumsh there. But I'm beginning to feel like a fraud. So how do we begin to almost... like, where do we get the strength, and how do we make sense of the more we say we are doing this work? You know, it's the more things. It's like the men are watching us and say, oh, you thought we're going to rape 18-year-old, we're going to go lower. You know, like, how do we even begin to stay in the moment of activism and making a difference without feeling like, you know what, I give up?
You know, I cannot answer that question for you because, you know, I've gone through periods of feeling like I'm not adding any value here, and that I actually don't know how to deal with some of the things that I'm experiencing, some of the things that we as a people are experiencing. I think what I long for is a sense of true community. A sense that when we say we are in community with each other, that means we have spaces where we can talk the hard things, and we also have spaces of healing, you know. What is community? What constitutes community? You know, is it having a place of spiritual healing? Is it having what is community, you know? But I often feel that I cannot find true community because we're all pulling in so many different directions sometimes. That's what I long for. I long for a feeling that this is my community. I can come to them when I'm finished, when I'm spent, to be re-energized, to be re-educated, because also there's so much to learn. There's so much coming up all the time. This is a new information. This is something that you might not have thought of, you know. I don't have the answer for your question, but I know that I long for a stronger sense of community.
And what would that community look like for you?
It needs to feel safe.
Okay.
It needs to feel safe, and I don't know what that means, but it needs to feel... Yeah. If I'm in community, I want to feel like I'm in community. I want to feel that I can come to you at any time with all my troubles, even the ones that you don't agree with, that you will hold space for us to unpack that in a safe environment where we can grow and develop. I find a lot of us are chopping each other down quite quickly nowadays, chopping each other down at the knees. And this doesn't allow for growth to happen. For instance, if we speak about men or white people, which are obviously problems that we have as people. A lot of the time we have this language that says, I don't want to have to teach you this. I don't want to have to teach you that you mustn't be a racist or you mustn't be a rapist or you mustn't. But there is a disconnect somewhere. Someone hasn't learned how to be human. Someone has not connected the dots. And at the end of the day, you can discard that person, but someone must hold. Because, you know, a lot of the things that I think about is healing. And that healing doesn't judge. So we can be doing different things, but if we say we're doing healing work, then the healing work has to come from a place where we say, you know, if you walk into a doctor's room and you say, "Dineqhuma abempundu," the doctor just looks, uyajonga, anxibe gloves zakhe, ayijongele into yakhe. Athi, okay, cool. This is what you need to do next. You know, the doctor doesn't shame you and ask, you left it, ma'am, it. But I just think, for me, the most important thing is, where do we create the actual healing? We have conversations, we have the fight. Where is the healing? Where are we taking the young boys and girls and teaching something else from what is the prevalent messaging? Because every young boy, the boys who are 16 now, are talking the same crap that their fathers and grandfathers were speaking. And this doesn't make sense. How can that continue? Someone must open up space to say, okay, guys, something you didn't understand it. Let's start from scratch. Let's do it like this. Healing has to be about opening up space for the person who doesn't know. The person who is wrong, the person who is a mess because of what they've learned, what they've picked up around, what has happened to them, what they haven't learned, what they haven't, you know, all of that. We must create the space for the human being who is not perfect like we are. I'm not perfect. And I want sometimes to be able to get into a space, be wrong, learn, grow, walk out of that space, still in community with my people. Still in community with my people. So that's what I long for. I long for that space, for me to be able to be human and fallible and wrong and bad. And then have my people hold me and turn me into something. When I was at Brahu's funeral, Tatu Zex Mdawa speaking about that our humanity is bestowed upon us by the kindness of other human beings. That's why when somebody is kind to you, you say, "Undenze umntu." Because it means I could have been an animal until your kindness turned me human. You know? And when a person does something insane, we go, "Hey man, muto hana botho." Because we understand that to be human is to be fallible, and to be human is to be in conversation with other human beings, and that's how we become better human beings. But every time other human beings discard you, then the world doesn't change. We keep saying these things, but we don't have spaces where we actually practice them.
My last question to you is, you know, we run a leadership development program, and so much is said about leadership. Leadership of the country, whether we've got it, whether we lack it, you know. And I hear you a lot speaking about longing for community, and I think for me you've defined what community is, and I'm beginning to long for it as well, because I think we all need those spaces where we are held, where we can learn, unlearn, and relearn, really. But if we take the same concept and we look at leadership, what are your views about the leadership that is going to create the necessary changes that we need in society. And I'm deliberately not asking you about what you think about the current leadership. I am asking you what is the kind of leadership we need, because I think the world over, we are very clear that the capitalist, racist, patriarchal systems that have created the kind of leadership that we sometimes even emulate, does not have the solutions that the world needs now. So what is the kind of leadership that you think is going to be necessary to address some of, or even all of the issues of inequity, of the issues of hate, of the issues of lack, of the issues of just, I don't know what other words to use to describe where we are at in the world right now, and maybe in South Africa in particular. For you.
I'm, one of my favorite quotes is by Che Guevara, who says something about how, you cannot be a revolutionary without love. Mm-hmm. That you are a revolutionary because you love your people, you love your country, you love justice, you love equality. We need that kind of leadership, a leadership that centers love. It's a little bit wishy-washy, but where is the love? Right now, there is no love, because you cannot say you love your people. You cannot say you love your country. You cannot say you love justice and do what the leadership is doing now. The leadership has no love. So, and I have no idea who will arise from the ashes with the kind of love that we need in order to change this country, because I work within that space where I just feel that love as an idea is so powerful, and that it shifts the world in such a powerful way. It's needed. You need to center that. So I don't know. I'd like them to have a lot more love for the people, for justice, for this country, for the women of this country, for the children of this country, for the future. There is no love. Where is the love?
And what carried us was the arts during, even during apartheid. What carried us was the arts. What spoke to our conscience was the arts. Where are we now, and is there space for that kind of expression and leadership, because I think
within the arts?
Yeah, within the arts in particular, are we creating as a country? I mean, each time an artist dies, like Umamusbongile Kumalo, and I see politicians going to eulogize.
They must never come to my funeral. They must never.
I feel so sad, because I'm just like, oh my goodness, we hear so many stories of how towards the end artists would be struggling and they would be suffering. When we've got so much talent, and when the arts really contributed to our freedom, where are we at with the arts in this country?
This country doesn't value art, does not value the arts, and it's a strange thing, because the art is, this is what speaks to who we are here and now. And also the arts nourishes in a way that nothing else does. I'm surprised, in fact, that they are not using the arts a lot more to change how people see the world around them. It's incredible what a song can do, or what the cadence, the sound of Nabo. Even if you can't hear her language, you just hear her saying, "Oh, I don't know what she was saying, but that sound just emboldens you. It
Yeah.
empowers you somehow, you know. Art speaks in a language that no words can arrive at. Art has a much wider lexicon. It arrives at places where words cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this country does not value its artists, does not value the arts, and will be worse off for it.
Yeah. we
Worse
will
off
be.
for it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
We will be. We will be. I don't know how to even end this conversation. I feel like we need drinks, maybe
We
not
need
only
more.
in blue bottles, you know, like, and food, because we could extend and even invite so many other people to get into this
because
conversation.
I feel like also
Yeah,
there's minds and bodies in
and
the room
exactly.
that could be engaging and saying,
Exactly.
hey, but Nama wanted to say, Nama, you know, Nama. I prefer those kinds of conversations.
Exactly, you know, and I've been thinking about it. I'm like, you know, this is just such an important conversation. But let me just thank you, I think, for honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
Let me thank you for just your embodiment of everything that many of us long for, but we can't even articulate. We can't even put in words.
Thank you.
Let me thank you for stepping out and really, you know, saying, you know, I'm here and I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to embody and I'm willing to do the work. I always think about what we do now as a footprint we put on, you know, wet cement. You know, whenever I see marks on cement that has dried, I get so curious to be saying, I wonder what happened. I wonder who's, you know, I create stories for myself. And I see the work that you and others do, you know, as, you know, a way in which we really, I think, put some prints into time. And maybe like Mamuwini, Chris Honey, and others, maybe what we long for we will never see. But what we've longed for will be completed. And it will be completed because we started it in some way. So thank you so much for the contribution that you have played in just, you know, helping us imagine ourselves in a different way, and the spaces that you have created for others to just be, as you say.
Thank you.
And I really want to thank all of you for really being in this conversation. And at this point, I would really like to invite all of our speakers and all of our panelists and moderators to come up on stage, because, you know, I think this is just a moment as we come to the end of the session with speaking. This is session 1, by the way. We are not done with the evening. I would really like to call all of the panelists and the moderators to join us with Thandiswa on stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much.
Okay. Maybe invite the filmmakers as well.
the community that brought today for us. This is the community that made it possible. And I just thought that at the end of the first part, that we invite everybody and we see symbolically that in fact we create magic when we do it together. And on behalf of Tekano staff, Tekano board, you know, the entire organization, I really want to thank each and every one of you for just bringing your heart and your soul. Somebody on one panel spoke about the emotional labor that goes into this. So, you know, we can buy your technical skills, but I don't think that there is enough money to pay for the emotional labor that you bring into the work that looks like what we managed to do today. So this is just one moment for everybody to see and to witness who brought this day to us and to capture it in memory. And I think when Thandiswa speaks about community, if I was to choose a tribe or a community that I want to belong to, you are the tribe and the community that I would like to belong to. Thank you very, very much for making this day possible. Zinhle Bongani, please come up too. Please don't leave. This is just a small token of our appreciation for the work that you have done. So as you leave, just take a little packet. This is just a token of our appreciation. Then you can go down. Yeah, just help me hand them out, please. Thank you. We've got a last item. Colleagues, we've got a last item to end part A. And I would like to welcome at this moment Sibusiso Fihlane, who is our lifelong fellow, who is going to close this session for us in spoken word. Welcome, Sibusiso.
Molweni woman. Nathula. Thina zenza bahla apha kum. So I'm going to pump you for the last time. I want you, when I pump you this time around, to go crazy, to scream until you bring down the ceiling, you bang the walls, we tarnish everything that is here. I'm going to pump you, and you're going to give me the energy back. Molweni woman! That's more like it. I would like to dedicate the following offering to the women and children in Afghanistan, in Haiti, to the little girl in the Eastern Cape who didn't go to school today because she lacked sanitary pad. I would like to dedicate this offering to a sex worker who doesn't bath her face anymore because the tears are too filled to wash the face itself. I would like to dedicate this offering to a queer woman, to a trans woman who's trying to prove her innocent or existence or sexuality. I'd like to dedicate this offering to a fierce, fearless feminist who's tired and drowning in mental health because of the facade she's trying to climb the corporate ladder. This offering is an adaptation from the legendary Hugh Masekela. There's a Gautrain that moves from the Ciskei and the Transkei. There's a Gautrain that moves from Bophuthatswana. There's a Gauteng that moves from KwaXhwaqhwa, KwaZulu. This Gauteng carries with it young and old African women who are conscripted to come and work in Johannesburg and its big cities for 20 hours or more for almost no pay. Or even worse, they do the unpaid labor for their families. These women work as nurses, they work as social workers, they work as farm workers. These women, when they sit and they eat their mush food that is served to them on an iron plate with an iron shovel, which is a leftover of ingane zikamadam emakitchini. When they sit on their funky, filthy, flea-ridden back rooms and hostels, these women, they always think about their ancestor land that was taken from them with force. They always think about their children. They always think about their loved ones. They always think about their womanhood and virginity that was taken from them with the patriarchy, with the gun, with the collaborator, the police dog. They think about the bombs. These women, when they see the Gautrain moving and coming and puffing and crawling and crumbling and joying and smiling and crippling and coming and wee! They always curse. They curse the choo-choo train that brought them to Johannesburg, naseKapa. They never died, so they multiplied. These women live in me. They live in you. They live in every train, every Gautrain, every train that passes by every station, every time, every morning, every Sunday, every Monday. Ngomama bomthandazo. I see these women coming, and I start marching with them in my dreams. I start marching with them in my dreams as they carry their dompas. We are marching. Some of them, they are carrying children in their bags. They are marching. They are marching. They are marching. But they see the choo-choo train that is going to take them away from their families. It's going to take them away from their land. But they're busy marching. They say, no, no, you don't want to be part of the how train. I see this woman in you and me and every one of us.
Thank you so much for your offering. As we prepare to close off this part, we're going into a cocktail hour where there'll be some DJing before we are blessed with performances from Tandiswa and Zoe Modiche. Please enjoy.